The rain tapped against the windows of the Mitchell home that morning in Charlotte. September 12, 2018. The kind of gentle rhythm that makes you want to stay in bed, wrapped in blankets, safe from the world outside. But for Detective Sarah Reeves, the scene waiting inside that modest two-story suburban house was anything but gentle. The hallway was pristine, family photos lined the walls, shoes nearly arranged by the door. Nothing looked out of place until you reached the master bedroom. There, Vanessa Mitchell, 34, lay on the cream-colored carpet, her body positioned as if she had simply fallen. But the dark stain spreading beneath her told a different story. James Mitchell stood in the kitchen, his hands trembling around a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. "I found her like that," he kept saying, his voice hollow, eyes focused on some invisible point beyond the detective. "I came home from my shift, and she was just there." But something about his story didn't align with the scene. The way Vanessa's body lay, the lack of forced entry, the carefully closed bedroom door, as if someone didn't want the children to see. The two Mitchell children, ages 7 and 5, were still asleep in their rooms when police arrived, unaware that their mother would never wake them for school again. As Detective Reeves surveyed the scene, she noticed small details that seemed insignificant at first. A phone with no fingerprints, a bathroom with 2 damp towels, and a text message that arrived while James was being questioned. "Did you take care of it?" From someone named Amber Cole. That name would become the thread that, when pulled, would unravel the entire fabric of the Mitchell family. A 23-year-old college student who had been caring for the Mitchell children for nearly 8 months. A young woman who had vanished the same night Vanessa Mitchell died. This wasn't a random act of violence. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was something far more intimate, far more calculated. A crime born from secrets, shame, and a husband who decided his wife's medical condition was a burden he no longer wanted to carry. If stories like Vanessa's matter to you, if you believe these truths need to be heard, take a moment to support this channel. Like this video so more people can understand what happens behind closed doors. Subscribe for more cases that deserve attention. We explore a new story every day. James and Vanessa Mitchell were college sweethearts who married right after graduation. He was studying business management. She was pursuing education with dreams of becoming an elementary school teacher. Friends described them as a perfect couple. James with his easygoing charm and athletic build. Vanessa with her warm laugh and genuine kindness. After college, they settled in Charlotte, where James secured a position at a financial firm and Vanessa taught 3rd grade at a local school. Their life seemed picture perfect from the outside. A beautiful home in a good neighborhood, 2 healthy children, regular family vacations to beach, and matching SUVs in the driveway. James coached Little League on weekends. Vanessa volunteered at the PTA. They attended community events together, always smiling, always holding hands. The kind of couple other couples aspire to be. But behind that carefully constructed image, hairline fractures had begun to form. About 2 years before her death, Vanessa developed a medical condition that caused chronic bacterial vaginosis. The infection was persistent and difficult to treat. Despite multiple rounds of antibiotics and specialized treatments, the condition would return, causing not only physical discomfort, but significant emotional distress. Vanessa's closest friend, Teresa, later told investigators that Vanessa had become increasingly self-conscious. She would shower 2 or 3 times a day, Teresa recalled. She spent hundreds on special soaps, probiotics, anything that might help. The doctors kept telling her it wasn't her fault, that many women deal with this. But she couldn't shake the shame. That shame became a wall between Vanessa and James. Intimacy became rare, then non-existent. James started spending more nights, working late. Vanessa retreated into herself, focusing on the children, on her classroom, on anything but the widening distance in her marriage. The Mitchell household began to operate on autopilot. They still functioned as a family, still attended school events together, still posted happy family photos on social media. But the genuine connection that had once drawn them together was fading. Vanessa tried to reach out, suggesting counseling, date nights, anything to bridge the gap. James would agree, then find reasons to cancel. His excuses grew more elaborate, his absences more frequent. And through it all, Vanessa carried her secret shame alone. Her condition worsened with stress, creating a vicious cycle she couldn't escape. She became quieter, more withdrawn. Neighbors who once saw her gardening or jogging now rarely saw her leave the house except for work. She lost weight. Her clothes hung loosely on her frame. She smiled less. The vibrant woman who once lit up rooms had dimmed, and few people noticed enough to ask why. Then Amber Cole entered their lives, bringing with her a brightness that had long been missing from the Mitchell home. Amber was everything Vanessa once was: young, energetic, carefree. A senior at the local university studying psychology, she had a way with children that seemed almost magical. She could calm tantrums with gentle word, transform homework into games, make vegetables disappear from plates. The Mitchell children adored her instantly. Vanessa hired Amber out of necessity. Her teaching position had become more demanding, with after-school programs keeping her late 3 days a week. James' work schedule was equally unpredictable. They needed consistent help with childcare, and Amber, with her flexible college schedule and glowing references, seemed like the perfect solution. At first, Amber was exactly what the family needed. She arrived on time, kept the house tidy, prepared simple meals for the children. She was respectful of Vanessa's parenting style, always asking before introducing new activities or treats. The children thrived under her care, and for a brief moment, Vanessa felt some pressure lifting from her shoulders. But within months, subtle shifts began to occur. Amber started dressing differently when she knew James would be home early, trading comfortable jeans and t-shirts for sundresses and makeup. She lingered later than necessary, finding reasons to be there when James arrived. She asked about his day before Vanessa could, made his favorite snacks, laughed at his jokes with a little too much enthusiasm. Vanessa noticed these changes but dismissed them. She told herself she was being paranoid, that her insecurities about her condition were making her see problems where none existed. Besides, James wouldn't be interested in someone so young, someone who was essentially an employee in their home. She trusted her husband, despite the distance between them. She trusted the girl she had welcomed into their family. But trust is fragile, especially when tested repeatedly. Neighbors later reported seeing Amber's car parked outside the Mitchell home at unusual hours. Late at night, early mornings before Vanessa's car had left the driveway. Once, a delivery person saw Amber wearing James' University sweatshirt while collecting a package. Small moments that seemed innocent in isolation, but formed a troubling pattern when viewed together. Inside the home, the dynamics had shifted dramatically. Amber and James developed their own language of inside jokes and meaningful glances. They texted constantly about the children's schedules, then about movies, music, personal dreams. Conversations that started innocently enough, but gradually crossed boundaries neither acknowledged out loud. Vanessa would enter rooms to find them standing too close, laughing too easily, going silent too quickly. She would check James' phone when he was in the shower, finding nothing suspicious because he'd learned to delete the evidence. For James, the attention from Amber became addictive. She made him feel desired, appreciated, understood, all the things he once felt with Vanessa before a condition changed everything. In his mind, he began to rewrite his marriage history, painting himself as a victim of Vanessa's medical issues rather than as her partner through hardship. He told himself he deserved happiness, deserved to be with someone who didn't make him feel repulsed. He convinced himself that Vanessa's condition was somehow a personal failure rather than a medical reality beyond her control. Amber fed this narrative, positioning herself as the solution to his unhappiness. She was subtle at first, offering sympathy when he complained about Vanessa's distance. "That must be so hard for you," she would say. "You deserve better." Then the touches began, a hand on his arm when they talked, standing closer than necessary when looking at the children's artwork, finding reasons to be alone with him. The line between employer and employee blurred beyond recognition. Their affair began 3 months after Amber started working for family. It happened after Vanessa had gone to bed early with a migraine, leaving James and Amber to clean up after dinner. One moment they were loading the dishwasher. The next they were kissing against the kitchen counter, their movements urgent, desperate. When it was over, both promised it was a mistake that wouldn't happen again. Both knew they were lying. What started as stolen moments when Vanessa was out of the house evolved into an elaborate deception. James created fake work events to spend evenings with Amber. Amber scheduled her classes to maximize time when she could be alone with James. They met in hotel rooms, in Amber's small campus apartment, sometimes even in the Mitchell home when Vanessa took the children to visit her parents. The affair consumed them, making them reckless, overconfident. Meanwhile, Vanessa's suspicions grew stronger. The distance between her and James had widened into a chasm. He barely touched her anymore, always finding excuses to avoid intimacy. When she tried to discuss their relationship, he deflected, blamed work stress, sometimes even blamed her. "You haven't exactly been available," he once said during an argument, the cruel implication hanging in the air between them. Still, she had no concrete proof, nothing beyond instinct and observation. Until the day she found an earring behind the bedroom dresser, a small gold hoop with distinctive turquoise charm. That didn't belong to her. Vanessa held that earring for a long time, turning it over in her palm, forcing herself to acknowledge what it meant. She placed it in her jewelry box and said nothing, watching, waiting, gathering evidence of her husband's betrayal. The evidence accumulated quickly once Vanessa began looking for it. Credit card statements showing lunch charges for two at restaurants too expensive for a casual meal. GPS history on James' phone that didn't match his claimed whereabouts. A receipt for women's perfume tucked in his wallet. A scent Vanessa had noticed lingering in their home, on their couch, but had attributed to her imagination. She installed a small camera in the living room, disguised as a phone charger, a desperate act she never imagined herself capable of. The footage confirmed everything. James and Amber in her home, on her couch, in her bedroom, their careless laughter as they discussed Vanessa's condition. "I don't know how you stand it," Amber said in one recording, her voice dripping with disgust. "It's like she doesn't even care how it affects you." James' response was equally cruel. "The doctor says it's treatable, but she doesn't try hard enough. She's given up." The betrayal cut deep, but the mockery of her medical condition, something Vanessa had fought so hard to overcome, was devastating. This wasn't just infidelity. This was humiliation at her most vulnerable point. This was her husband and a woman she had trusted with her children conspiring not just to deceive her, but to reduce her entire worth to a medical condition she couldn't fully control. Vanessa gathered her evidence methodically. Screenshots of text messages she managed to recover, video clips, financial records. She contacted a divorce attorney, secured copies of their financial documents, and began making plans to leave. She wasn't going to confront James until everything was in place. She would not allow herself to be manipulated or gaslight. She would leave on her terms, with her dignity intact. But secrets have a way of revealing themselves before we're ready. 3 weeks before her death, Vanessa received an anonymous text message with a photo attached, James and Amber kissing in his car outside a restaurant. The message read simply, "Thought you should know." Vanessa never discovered who sent it, though she suspected one of Amber's college friends who had occasionally helped with childcare. That night, Vanessa broke her silence. The children were asleep. James had just showered and was sitting on their bed checking emails when Vanessa placed his phone down and set the printed photo in front of him. "I know everything," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "I know about Amber. I know what you said about me. I know you brought her into our home, our bedroom." James didn't deny it. Perhaps he was tired of lying, or perhaps he simply recognized the futility of further deception. Instead, he shifted immediately to blame. "What did you expect?" he said, his voice cold. "You haven't been a real wife to me in years." "The smell, Vanessa, do you have any idea what it's like? I try to be patient. I try to understand. But you stopped trying. You gave up on us long before I did." The cruelty of his words struck Vanessa like a physical blow. She had spent thousands on treatments, endured painful procedures, tried every remedy available. She had wept in doctors' offices, begged for solutions, hated her own body for betraying her. And here was her husband, the person who had vowed to stand by her in sickness and health, claiming she hadn't tried hard enough. "I want a divorce," she said finally. "I've already spoken to an attorney. I want you out of this house by the end of the month." James laughed, the sound hollow and unfamiliar. You think it's that simple? You think you can just throw away 10 years? This is my house too. These are my children. You're not taking anything from me. His eyes narrowed. Besides, who do you think the kids would rather live with? Their fun, healthy father or their angry, sick mother who can barely get out of bed? The threat was clear. James would fight for custody, would use Vanessa's condition against her, would paint her as unfit. He would take her children, her home, her dignity. The fear that gripped Vanessa in that moment was overwhelming. She had anticipated anger, perhaps even relief that the secret was out. She hadn't expected this cold calculation, this willingness to weaponize her health issues against her. For the first time, she felt genuinely afraid of the man she had married. Over the next 3 weeks, tension filled the Mitchell home. They maintained appearances in front of the children, but the walls seemed to close in whenever they were alone together. James refused to leave, and Vanessa refused to back down. She continued gathering evidence, building her case for full custody. She recorded conversations, documented every interaction. She changed the passwords on their joint accounts after discovering James had begun moving money. Amber no longer came to the house. James had at least conceded that point, but Vanessa knew they were still meeting. James stayed out later, came home smelling of unfamiliar perfume, didn't bother to hide it anymore. His demeanor toward Vanessa oscillated between icy politeness when the children were present and open hostility when they were alone. This isn't going to end well for you, he told her one night. You should take what I'm offering while you still can. 2 days before her death, Vanessa discovered she was pregnant. The timing was impossible. She and James hadn't been intimate in months. This could only mean one thing. Amber was carrying James' child. Confirmation came from an unlikely source. The same anonymous texter who had first alerted her to the affair. She's telling everyone she's keeping his baby. Thought you should know. Vanessa confronted James that night, showing him the text. His reaction told her everything. Not shock or denial, but anger that she had discovered the truth. She wasn't supposed to tell anyone, he said, forgetting himself in his frustration. Then, seeing Vanessa's expression, he attempted to backtrack. It's not what you think. It happened once, a mistake. It doesn't change anything. It changes everything, Vanessa replied. Do you understand what this means for our divorce? For custody? For your precious reputation at work? For the first time since discovering the affair, Vanessa felt a flicker of power. This pregnancy would complicate James' narrative, would reveal him as the liar he was. No judge would look favorably on a father who had impregnated his children's babysitter while married. The shift in power was temporary, but significant. James fell silent, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was eerily calm. You won't use this against me. You won't use anything against me. By the time I'm done, no one will believe a word you say. The threat hung in the air, but Vanessa no longer felt afraid. She had evidence. She had truth. She had a way forward. We'll see, she said simply and walked away. That night, Vanessa wrote in her journal, a habit she had maintained since childhood. Her final entry was found by investigators, its contents heartbreaking in hindsight. I'm finally free of the shame. Whatever happens next, I know I deserve better than what he's done to me. The children deserve better. Tomorrow I tell my lawyer everything. Tomorrow I take back our lives. The morning of September 12th broke with gentle rain and the promise of change. Vanessa had scheduled an early meeting with her attorney to discuss the pregnancy development. She had packed the children's lunch boxes with special notes, had laid out her most confident outfit, had rehearsed what she would say. She never made it to that meeting. As Detective Reeves would later piece together, James had come home unexpectedly after dropping the children at school. They argued again. Neighbors reported hearing raised voices, though not the actual words exchanged. What happened next was reconstructed from physical evidence and James' eventual confession. In a rage, James had struck Vanessa repeatedly, then strangled her as she fought back. The attack was brutal, efficient, and deeply personal. He had arranged her body carefully afterward, staging the scene to suggest an accident or natural cause. He had showered, change clothes, dispose of evidence, then gone to work as if nothing had happened. He returned home hours later to discover his wife's body and call 911, his voice breaking convincingly as he begged for help. The initial investigation treated James as a grieving husband. He played the role perfectly, devastated but strong for the children, cooperative with police, appropriately emotional when necessary. He told a compelling story about coming home to find Vanessa unresponsive, about his desperate attempts to revive her. He suggested her medical issues might have contributed to her death, carefully planting seeds of natural causes. But Detective Reeves wasn't easily convinced. 23 years in homicide had taught her to look beyond the obvious, to question the perfect narrative. And James' story was too perfect, too rehearsed. The positioning of Vanessa's body didn't match an accidental fall. The bruising pattern was inconsistent with his explanation. And most damning of all, the shower had been used after Vanessa died, evident from the still damp towels in the bathroom she supposedly never entered that morning. As Reeves dug deeper, more inconsistencies emerged. James claimed to have been at work all morning, but security footage showed his car leaving the office parking lot shortly after arrival. His phone GPS placed him at home during the estimated time of death. And then there was Amber. Suddenly unreachable, her campus apartment emptied overnight, her social media accounts deactivated. The investigation intensified when Vanessa's sister arrived to care for children. She brought with her Vanessa's journal and access to a private email account Vanessa had created to document the affair. The evidence Vanessa had so carefully gathered, videos, recordings, text messages, painted a damning picture of James' character and provided clear motive for murder. She knew he was planning something, Vanessa's sister told detectives. She told me last week that if anything happened to her, it wouldn't be an accident. I thought she was being paranoid. I told her to stop watching crime shows. The grief in her voice was matched only by her anger at James, at Amber, but also at herself for not taking Vanessa's fears seriously. The search for Amber became a priority. She was located 3 days later at a motel near the state border, preparing to flee with cash James had given her. When confronted by police, Amber's composure crumbled. Young, scared, and now faced with potential accessory charges, she chose self-preservation over loyalty to James. He said he would handle everything, she told detectives, tears streaming down her face. He said once Vanessa was gone, we could be together with the baby. I thought he meant divorce. I never thought he would. I never wanted. Her voice trailed off, the magnitude of her involvement finally becoming clear to her. She hadn't wielded the weapon, but she had helped create the circumstances that led to murder. Amber's testimony revealed the extent of James' calculation. He had discussed removing Vanessa from the picture for weeks, though always in vague terms that Amber could interpret as divorce plans. He had researched untraceable poisons, methods that might appear natural or accidental. He had taken out additional life insurance on Vanessa 6 months earlier. He had told Amber they would move away after everything was settled. Start fresh somewhere new with the children. Most disturbing were the text messages recovered from Amber's phone, sent in the hours after Vanessa's murder. It's done. Don't contact me for a few days. Stick to the plan. And Amber's response: did you take care of it? Are you sure no one saw? The same message Detective Reeves had glimpsed on James' phone during initial questioning, the thread that had first unraveled their careful deception. When confronted with the mounting evidence, James maintained his innocence. He claimed Amber was lying to save herself, that the texts were about a surprise party they were planning, that Vanessa's death was a tragic accident. But as each alibi collapsed under scrutiny, his confidence began to waver. The final piece came when forensics recovered skin cells from beneath Vanessa's fingernails, DNA that matched James perfectly. In the interrogation room, Detective Reeves laid out the evidence methodically. The DNA, the contradicting timelines, the life insurance policy, the text messages, the journal entries, the statements from Amber, the motive documented in Vanessa's own words and recordings. We know what happened, James, she said quietly. The only question now is why. Why not just divorce her? Why take her life? James sat silent for a long time, staring at his hands. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow, "You don't understand what it was like," he said, "living with that smell, sleeping next to it, everyone thinking we were the perfect couple, while I couldn't even touch my own wife. Do you know what that does to a man?" His eyes met Reeves, searching for understanding he wouldn't find. "The divorce would have ruined me. She would have taken everything, the house, the kids, my reputation. She had all those recordings, all that evidence. She would have destroyed me." In that moment, James revealed himself completely, not as a loving husband overcome by temporary madness, but as a narcissist who viewed his wife's medical condition as a personal affront. A man who chose murder over divorce because his pride couldn't withstand the public revelation of his cruelty. A father who orphaned his children rather than share custody with their mother. The trial that followed was brief, but intensely covered by media. The public was captivated by the story, the seemingly perfect family, the young babysitter, the shameful secret at the center of it all. James maintained his innocence until the end, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning a guilty verdict for first-degree murder. At sentencing, Vanessa's sister addressed court, her children beside her. Vanessa fought every day for her health, for her marriage, for her dignity. She deserved a partner who would fight alongside her, not someone who would use her suffering against her. These children will grow up without their mother because James couldn't bear to be seen as less than perfect. The judge sentenced James to life without possibility of parole, noting the particular cruelty of exploiting a spouse's medical condition as motivation for murder. Amber received a lesser sentence, 10 years for conspiracy to commit murder, with eligibility for parole after 7. Her cooperation with prosecutors and her genuine remorse influenced the judge's decision, though he noted, "Youth and love are not excuses for participating in the destruction of a family." She gave birth to a daughter while incarcerated, a child who would be raised by Amber's parents with no contact with James. Vanessa's children went to live with her sister, surrounded by photos of their mother, stories of her kindness, reminders of her love. In time, they would learn the truth about what happened, but for now, they were sheltered from the worst details. They were told simply that their father had done something very wrong and couldn't be with them anymore, that their mother had loved them more than anything in the world and would always watch over them. As for Vanessa's medical condition, the private struggle that had been so cruelly exposed and weaponized against her, doctors later confirmed it was entirely treatable with the right combination of medications and therapies. The shame she carried had been unnecessary, manufactured by a society that makes women feel responsible for their body's natural processes, and by a husband who prioritizes comfort over her health. In the aftermath of the trial, Vanessa's sister established a foundation in her name, providing support and resources for women dealing with chronic health conditions and the relationship challenges they can create. Vanessa died because she felt alone in her struggle. Her sister explained at the foundation's launch, "We want to ensure no woman ever feels that isolation again." Vanessa's story is a stark reminder of how quickly shame can become a weapon in the wrong hands, how medical conditions can be stigmatized to the point of destruction, how perfectly ordinary-seeming men can harbor deadly resentment toward the women they once claimed to love. If this story moved you, please like and share so others can learn from Vanessa's experience. Subscribe for more cases that deserve attention and justice. In the comments, I'm curious. Do you think Amber's sentence was fair, or should she have received the same punishment as James? Let me know your thoughts. And don't forget to turn on notifications for more true crime stories that matter.